Hello, everyone. Good evening again. Welcome to Point of View. Um, I hope everybody's having a good evening. Um, Point of View is an online conversational series by Cinderbay School of Design in collaboration with ADI, the Association of Designers of India. My name is Aditi Dastadhar, and I am the moderator for today's session of POV. I am a product designer by training from NID Ahmedabad, and my career has largely been in fashion and leather goods design. I've been an entrepreneur, and I am also an educator with NID, Pearl, and IICD, and a member of the ADI Delhi chapter. Cinderbay School of Design was established in 2006 in Calicut, Kerala, and has been ably helmed by Professor Basant Nair, the director of CST. 2021 marks a significant milestone for the school, 15 years of being an established, well-recognized institution imparting design education in UG and PG programs in interior design, fashion, visual communication, and School of Design, the Cinderbay School of Design is spread across South India with 14 branches and about 13,000 strong alumni. What a fantastic achievement. Congratulations to Cinderbay School of Design and the Cinderbay team. As part of this celebration of this milestone, Cinderbay has curated POV, which invites designers, architects, and artists to share their journeys and their perspectives with a young audience in hopes of inspiring their own milestones. A quick hello to the Cinderbay team for managing everything but behind the scenes. And I'm sure today's session is going to be a lot of fun, and I am very excited to get started. So let's invite our speaker for today, Chandrashekhar Bheda, to come online, and we can have a quick hello with him. Chandrashekhar, are you here? Hi, welcome to Point of View. Your mic is off.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Chandrashekhar. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure.
I am going to actually start with a quick introduction to you. So our speaker today, Chandrashekhar, is a textile designer, a handicraft and product designer, and an artist. He is an alumnus of the National Institute of Design, the master's program in 1988, and Sir J.J. School of Arts, Bombay in 1982, with a short stint at NIFT, Delhi in 1989. He has had a prolific career of 33 odd years and counting. He founded Spider Design Studio in 1998 in NCR, which works with contextual textile arts and handicraft installations for interiors, commercial institutions, and office spaces by collaborating with architects and interior designers and craftspeople from all over India. His extensive familiarity with traditional textiles, modern technology, and craft techniques has allowed him to create a very experimental, novel approach to craft and design. He is an avid traveler, photographer, and regular funster, his words, not mine, and is inspired by people, cultures, nature, and life. Now, his list of achievements are too extensive to mention here. Sorry, Chandrashekhar, but I am just going to encourage the audience to read up more about his work. And please check out the links in the chat box. Have a look, have a deeper dive into his work, the talks and interviews that Chandrashekhar has given to get a look at his remarkable journey. But we will be talking about that today as well. So I am very happy that he has joined us today. Chandrashekhar, thank you so much for being here. It's a real pleasure. Okay, so before we get started, I wanted to ask you to begin with. You know, we've been dealing with social isolation and virtual conversations for almost a year and a half now. I wanted to ask you, is there anything in particular that you do mentally for yourself to have a fulfilling day at work?
Can you say a little more louder?
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Let me put my volume up a little. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better now.
Yeah. So I was asking, in this era of social isolation and virtual conversations and trying to work through it all, is there any mental trick that you've developed, something that helps you get through the day, have a productive and fulfilling day for yourself?
That's a good question. It is tough time we are going through. So amongst few thing is मेरी फटा मारने की आदत तो गई नहीं है. So my family has to bear with me. Then my music is on. So I have series of musical instrument at home. So I keep playing them. Then I keep writing puns, interacting with people, calling people on phone. Then keep looking at what I've done in past, what else can be done. So you constantly re-looking at things, all kinds of things. Doing food, bartan manjna, all that is part of this thing. So basically, one is occupied. I think one is much more occupied than what you cannot escape in this pandemic. Even if you escape from going out, but at home you cannot escape from anything. So there's a lot more to be done, and still, abhi to bahut sara baki hai, that kind of a thing.
I know.
So one has been very, very occupied, stressful times, but one has found out ways of enjoying it. So that's how, that's how it works.
I agree. I think keeping busy is a good antidote to dealing with the stress of just being away and isolating and still trying to get through the day. So I think that's a good way. I think a lot of people would resonate with that, including me. I have plenty of chores and pets to take care of, so that's helped me through the pandemic. Okay, I would like to. I know you prepared a short presentation for us about your work and about your young life, about your growing up, about your work, about your journey, and I thought maybe we can, before diving into that, perhaps we can have our first poll question and start with that, because we'd like the audience to get a feel of what we're going to talk about today. Swapna, could we have the first poll question up, please? Great. Okay, poll question number 1. When we think of khadi, what's the first thought that comes to mind? Option 1, 2nd October discounted products. 2, politicians' attire. 3, hand-spun, hand-woven cloth. And 4, a most fashionable cloth. And we would like the audience to weigh in on this and tell us what they think about this question. Chandrashekhar, what do you think about khadi? Just very briefly, when you think about khadi yourself as a textile designer.
I think khadi is a wonderful piece of our tradition where handcraft is at its best. It's all, every yarn in that fabric has gone through fingers of the artisans, and you're spending, so that human touch is there when you wear that cloth, and that
Every
is what
step of the way.
there is no heavy machine involved. There are no heavy technology. So it is an emotion from India, and that is what is very, very important. So one has to, and once you wear it, you feel it. Yeah. It's better worn and then felt it. Otherwise, normally what happens, khadi is looked at as वो स्टार्च करके पहनने का एक पुराना तरीका है. स्टार्च जब कड़क, जब तक गत्ते जैसा नहीं दिखे तब तक खादी नहीं है. That is what is the traditional popular way of looking at it. But no, if you just wash khadi and wear it, I'm telling you, you just go on to a different plane. So that is what it is. So it's a very, very emotional bond between our culture and ourselves. So that is what is khadi to me. And it's about people. Yeah. It's not about machine. It's about people.
Yeah. I think that, I know you like to also consider yourself as a bit of a purist, and I think khadi is the most pure form of anything handmade that we have ever developed as a society as well. So I think we can look at what the audience thinks about your question. Let's see what they feel about what khadi is. So 55% said hand-spun, hand-woven cloth. I think that's pretty much how people see it, from a tradition handmade. 21% think a most fashionable cloth. Now, this is interesting because it's not conventionally the most fashionable cloth used, but it is something that is a very important part of our textile heritage. Politicians' attire is 11%. 2nd October discount close to that. So I think our audience also agrees it's even their perception is something it's uniquely handmade and
so politicians do score sufficient percentage of points.
sufficiently. I'm sure because they are the most obvious symbols of how khadi is worn in that traditional sense. So I'd like to ask you to maybe get us a deep dive into your journey, and I'd like you to just the floor is yours. Please go ahead. I know we have an interesting conversation ahead of us, and I'd like to tell the audience that for whoever also attended the last two sessions of the textile sessions, we've seen a textile designer like Gaurav talking about fashion and textiles, and then we've had Akila session yesterday, which is very interesting because it's a different take on how a communication designer shifted to textile design and has found a very unique niche in print. Now, what I like so much about this curation is that today we have you who's taken a very different approach. You all have similar backgrounds and trainings, but you've taken a very different approach because you've looked at textiles and traditional crafts more in terms of surface and fabric and how it could go beyond just being a fashion product or a print product. And I want to let the audience know that that's a very interesting part of your journey. So without further ado, the floor is yours, Chandrashekhar. Please take it away.
Thank you, Aditi. Yes, now I'll just share my screen. Yes. Is it showing?
Yes, just full screen would be good.
That's okay?
Looks good.
And you can hear me well?
Yeah, sound is perfect.
Oh, great. How do I start? I remember this this say, कहावत है कि जहां न पहुंचे रवि वहां पहुंचे कवि. Where Sundays don't reach, that's where a poet reaches, and that is also essence of design. And similarly, jahan na poche gaadi, wahan poche marwadi. And I am both of these.
Perfect duo.
So I am the boy born in Marwadi family, Marwadi parents. And the family migrated 150 years ago to Maharashtra. And because of I think maximum migrations have happened from Gujarat and Rajasthan because of the desert and looking for more opportunities. That's how. So once they came into this town called Sangamner, and a group of people, I mean, there must have been large number of people came in together, and then they settled, and then they started living there and started working. My grandfather, Lakshmi Narayan Bheda, was earlier he had a petrol pump. For some time he did that, and then he had some losses. Then he joined a handloom manufacturing company, a handloom society kind of thing, or handloom weavers in Sangamner town, because we had ilkal saris being worn in our town. And we used to go as children to his office to get a brown paper cover for the sari. The sari is wrapped in a brown paper where the names, the brand logos are printed on the brown paper. So we used to go and get those covers, invert them, and use them as a cover for our notebooks and the books. So that was the direct association with the handloom. Meanwhile, we used to hear the sound of looms and he giving yarns to people and doing. He was Munimji there. And from my father was a devotional musician. He was a singer, and he used to work in one sugar factory office. And in the evening, he used to do devotional singing professionally. So he had his small troupe, and he used to travel all over Maharashtra, sometimes even outside Maharashtra, and used to do singing in Marathi, Marwadi, Hindi, and Gujarati also sometimes. And he was quite popular. So we knew what is, what is a star like, how people treat star. My mother, she was a lady at home who knew excellent stitching skills. So she had this machine which was a hand-driven machine. So in that hand-driven, initially she used to sit down, and with one hand she used to drive the wheel, and with other hand she used to stitch clothes. And she was excellent at doing blouse fittings and do petticoats, mainly women's garment. And we as a children kept seeing her how she operated machine, and used to loiter around her. And then later we became confident. We started helping her doing the stitching. अगर पेटीकोट के जो कलियां जुड़ती है उनको जोड़ने का काम हम करते. So that's how we got introduced to machine and skill and some design.
That's amazing. You, in fact, you have some images of those that you were showing me previously with your dad and your mom and your.
Yes, sir. So creativity was there in the family, and music was there. We lived around in all kinds of musical instruments, harmonium, tabla, and shahnai, and people kept coming at home and all that. And so at home, so because of that environment, one got into drawing and all that, and kept winning prizes and all that. Besides that, I had a neighbor who was a signboard painter family, and they were also silversmith family. So from there, I could go and watch the lettering being done by the painter, and I used to do the correction in the spellings, mainly Devanagari, sometimes English. So I used to wait for him to make mistake, then tell him, okay, no, ye matra theek nahi hai, dobara karo. So that was young naughty boy going and helping them sometimes, and also see the silversmith who used to take a silver bar and push into the rollers and make wire out of it. So we used to help him pulling. So that's where we saw the skill of the silversmith, and that's where these small these inputs, which one didn't know they're going to help, but that was part of living. Also, my mother sent us in our summer and Diwali holiday to a cloth shop where we worked as a sales boys. So that's where you got to learn to interact with people. You could sell things sell things to a people who don't even need it. That's how you would say. So she learned the art of convincing them. And I wasn't very bright boy. 50-55% was and then 55% was a big deal, because if you touch 60, higher second class or above 55. If you cross 60, you're a first class guy, you're respected. And if you've done 70, you're a master. I mean, you're like, big star. Those are the kinds of percentages. These days, 95, 90 se aane wale bhi rote hain. That kind of, so those are the kind of things there.
Those were the days.
And the town, which was quite fun, because a lot of cultural activities, Tees, Gengor, Lejim, Tajia, and going to the woods, and Imli todne ka kaam, gym jana hai, and riots and all that. So we had all kinds of things happening. Also in our gully, we had this Jain temple, and uska renovation hua. So they broke the entire thing and they built the sandstone and the marble Jain temple in front of us. So about 2-3 years, we saw that construction happening in our mohalla. मेरे घर से 100 मीटर दूर पर एक काम हो रहा था. So we could see the stone cutting and all that. So these are the imageries, and these are the things which worked indirectly in my mind.
Yeah, in fact you had some of this. I don't know if this slideshow is moving, Chandrashekhar.
Not yet. I'll just now get into that.
Yeah.
So from that, after my 12th, after 12th, I could not give my 12th exam, so I had to give that in October because I had typhoid. So that's where I got into art college, and to use that year for learning, I did my foundation course there in Nashik. And interestingly, I stood first there. In my October also, my exam of my 12th also stood first. Then I had to choose whether should I go for a commerce, which I was studying, or should I go for the arts, creative arts. Then somebody told me, if you go to JJ School of Art, they'll take you immediately because you are a first class or a topper in your school. I went to JJ and I got the admission. And that's where I got into JJ School of Art.
That set you
So things
on.
really,
That set you
it
on the
just at a
path.
pivot. At a pivot, you went on a tangent and joined it. In fact, when I was doing my 12th, my uncles used to think, "Kya karega? Ye draftsman banega बोलिए." So I was okay, draftsman बनना, कुछ drawing करना पड़ेगा. I thought that was a good idea. That time there were no internet, no, you could only read newspaper, go to library, pick up a book, or sometime magazine. So the information was available only by word of mouth. If somebody tells you, or you hit a newspaper sometime, something like that, or somebody experienced comes in and tells you, guides you.
Yeah.
Once I joined JJ School of Art, it was real fun time, lot of creativity, staying in hostel. Most of the after college time spent at Jahangir Art Gallery. Every day you go there, spend 2-3 hours, and then take a train back to Kasara or train back to hostel.
Wow.
All that was happening there. The best thing about this is my father, troupe singing, and this is my mother, who even now she does knitting, and this is her enterprise. She's already on Instagram. She keep posting her creativity, and
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
and here is my traditional Marwadi family. Some of these Gingor ke sare attire. In fact, I always found it slightly weird because many of these textiles were in polyester or polyester chiffon, polyester georgette with those embroidery in mukesh on it. All these women felt so good about it, but I never knew that if they ever felt comfortable about it. It was a mental comfort, but physical comfort, I really don't think, because polyester in the summers and these in Gangur would have been really disastrous. But I saw nobody ever complaining. And look at these. This is my generation. You see these 4 couples. These are all my cousins and their wives. And their wives are wearing all traditional attire with gota chunri, and men are wearing denim and shirt.
Yeah.
So men have gone and done what they want, and women continues to still wear sajawat. So that's an interesting point to be.
Yeah.
And down there you see my mother. Sorry, my mother, her sisters. Sorry. Yeah, my mother, her three sisters, and the sadhus together. So that is how. So that is a special photograph. You go to studio, dress up pale, neatly wear your attire. Half of them are wearing coats, dhotis, and all that. So that's a very, very photo, once in a lifetime kind of imagery which is there. And this is again my generation. These 4 women. Then my wife also. There are my babis together, and they are wearing this very typical Marwadi way of holding pallu across, and that's the signature which you see across in Marwadi families there. So that's also interesting, imagery in the mind. Here, JJ School of Art, my professor Gharat, amazing fellow. What he taught me was, what he taught us was to know, reason out why should we do certain things, why should this chemical go into this chemical, why should this screen should be washed this way. He always asked us to ask why, and I think that was amazing input, because that's where your inquisitivity, your curiousness all the time was maintained. So thanks to him for keeping us alive and ticking. And this is my batch together.
You're in this photo, I'm imagining.
Yeah, yes? I'm holding that folder. Yeah, the folder.
You're holding okay. That's you. Okay.
And another thing, besides various skills, what I learned in JJ School of Art, writing Devanagari with brush. This is my younger brother Rajesh Bheda's and Manisha's wedding card, which I've done this writing with brush and then screen printed and made this wedding card. Wow. Because when you used to do election posters, you used to take a brush and do, vote for this one, and that's how we used to do. So that was one. After joining NID, after JJ School, my father passed away. Then my mother Kishore said that you should join NID. So I applied. I went there. I got selected. In all the people that time, 250 people had applied, and 50 were for interview, and 4 were selected. I was from Maharashtra, and 3 girls from Delhi. So only 4 had taken admission.
Wow,
learning at NID was great fun. Learning at NID was great fun, and great faculties, interaction among students. We constantly kept talking. The faculty were treated like friends. There's no inhibition. You never felt, the gap between you and faculty. You call them by name, their name Gitto, Krishna, Aditi. This is the kind of name. Setu, and they're like friends. You treat them like a friend, and those guys are so comfortable. You could sit anywhere with chai and discuss your issues, get guidance. Film club was amazing. You could see lots of films from world, a lot of learning from there. Lots of people, stalwarts coming from outside and giving presentations. You could learn from them. Library was a great experience. Amongst various magazines, I used to regularly look at Mad magazine. That was one of the inspiring.
Me too. I love Mad magazine. I had no idea.
I have 80 of them in my kitty because I kept collecting.
You're a Mad magazine collector as well.
And from there, so at NID, I had various magazines. I had this Art, Textile and Beyond, one magazine, one book by Jacqueline Larson, and in that, and there are about 200 artists featured in that. When I looked at it, there was not a single Indian, and that's what I said. हमें अभी भी बहुत कुछ करना है. And that's what I said. I must get into this kind of profession because we still need to do, because India is mainly crafts, communities practice, and individuality is still at a distance. So I thought this is one of my focus I must be keeping. And then some of the students used to come and say, oh, you guys are very 2D, you keep doing this 2D artwork, na? Flat banate hai, flat kapda banate hai. So that also I took to heart. How can textile be only flat? So I said 2D or not 2D was my another motto. So to go and find out what else can you do with the textile. Anyway, garment making is a 3D form of textile. You convert flat fabric into 3D, but that's where you cut pieces and join together. But by birth, if a textile is a 3D, that was my challenge. And this was my first prototype in my basic weaving course. 3 strips woven on a small handloom, and this, once this dari was woven, I placed that in director Ashok Chatterjee's residence and took a picture. What a pleasure. First prototype, putting in the director's room and taking a picture in this colorful. Gitto was a guide for this course. Then craft documentation. I was sent to Navalgund in Karnataka. Going and documenting craft was amazing experience. 20 days all by yourself with only one address, and you already briefed what to do. 4 films, 1 color and 3 black and white, tripod, and you almost like a one hawker, and going and meeting people, finding out what to. People chucked me out. Well, we don't want to buy anything from you. So constantly convincing them, and by 20 days I was able to produce this document, which is my this Navalgundari document, and it was published also by NID in a photocopy form. These are the daris which are, there is this chowpad woven on these daris, and this family, Nashipude family, sitting, and they specially modeled for me. Well, no, we're going to play on it, and then you take a picture. So that's why I taken this picture for that. And this is another Gudar Patti. They weave strips like this 9-inch strips, 11-inch strips, and then join them together, where you can make them into tents, and you can make them as a large floor covering, and a variety of uses. And this was generally done with the wastage of fabric from the mills. So this was interesting.
So waste fabric.
Wastage was,
That was, oh, interesting.
And then these stripes, interesting. Look at these stripes. There are these Mittika stripes on the wall, and then you have this striped fabric. So the interesting reflection of your practices into textiles.
Yeah, it reflects that.
This is Garba. Aditi, you know this from heart. Amazing celebration time. Lots of singing, lots of dancing, dressing up. Borrow 3-4 saris from girls. Wear one as a dhoti, wear another one as a turban, silk kurtas, and gala time.
Absolutely.
So and lots of
everybody looks forward to this, especially. This is a very big tradition in NID, very long tradition.
Once I graduated from NID, I came to Delhi. Just my friend said, come to Delhi. Yahan sab kuch ho jayega. I came to Delhi, and first thing I did, I created my letterhead. I said, "Main naam nahi likhunga." I put my face there, and every time I send a letter, I would do this specs, colorful specs, and only address underneath. But largely I used for friends, but that's how things began. And that's where I thought of a spider design name, but I had not established a studio. These are the various qualities of spiders, which were reason I took the spider design as a name. And my first job with Rajiv Sethi, I went there and told him, okay, come and join. He was doing this house of Viren Shah, owner of Mukund Iron and Steel in Mumbai, palatious big house in Juhu, and I was doing some textile, specially designed textile for him. I don't have any pictures of those because half of them were never produced because 6 months एक artwork बन रहा है, 2 महीने दूसरा artwork बन रहा है, costing में गड़बड़ हो रहा है, बहुत expensive हो रहा है, those kind of things. But the client was ready and Rajiv was ready to spend time and create something magnificent. During that time, there was assignment with Rajiv, invitation from Rajiv. He is supposed to design wooden pillars. So he asked me, Chandrashekhar, why don't you get me somebody who can do furniture design? But I don't have money. I can only, it's a free pro bono. So I said, who will come pro bono? Everybody wants money. So I said, let me try if I can do it. He said, okay, that's great. So in the evening, 7 evenings, we worked for 1 hour every day. And we created a series of these 4 pillars, which are inspired from Indian Deepa Stambhas and various ideas. And these 4 sketches were sent to Australia for Crafts Council of New South Wales. And this was the house of fiction, domestic blueprints in wood. And when I assisted and Rajiv and we worked this together and sent a drawing, very rough drawing and ideas what is done. Those guys converted it into prototypes. And one of the pillar was finally prototype. And look at this. This is a batik textile is put around, and these are wooden turn rings and these pillars and fruits baskets and all that together. And there is no photograph of lit because there's light also in it. But in this document, there was no photograph with light. Anyway, Rajiv made sure that I was given credit. He's put an assistant designer, Chandrashekhar Bheda. I was thrilled because first year and suddenly in an international magazine, your name comes. I asked Rajiv, give me this book. And so he said, okay, please take it. And that's how it is there with me.
Oh, fantastic.
So
you have one copy of
So that's the first prize catch.
Nice. And may I ask where this prototype is? Where is this prototype now? Where is this
now
prototype
it's in Australia. Yeah, the exhibition was there. Rajiv went there for later for the exhibition, inaugural exhibition.
So it's part of the
after 1 year I worked with Rajiv. Then I got out and then started looking for work. Somebody told me, why don't you go and meet IDC Professor Joshi, Mr. Joshi. I went and met him. I said, he was doing World Calligraphy Exhibition. So what can you do? I said, I can do textile. So he picked up his logo and he said, this is the logo, Akar. A calligraphy Akar liga. So why can you make a textile with this logo? I said, yes. He said, give me a sketch by tomorrow morning. Next day morning, I went and showed him 2 sketches. He picked up one and he said, I want exactly same kind of effect of a pencil sketch in your textile. Can you do it? I thought for a while and I said, yes. He said, how much money you want? I told him money. He gave me 50% advance, immediately checked. And I was there. I came back to NID. I told Aditi, why didn't you give me a loom? She gave me a loom. And 20 days I worked and wove this dari myself. And this was my first art textile self-woven with a modified technique in weaving. Because pencil sketch had to be recreated, so I had to think of an idea and how it could be done by mixing yarns together, and that's how it was done.
To give that gradation, that beautiful gradation that you got.
Pencil by mixing and manipulating yarn together. And also these sharp lines which you see normally in kilim technique, these sharp lines if you make, they become holes. So I had to have a supplementary yarn which is holding this thing together. So these were technique. You do it when you yourself do it, automatically you get to know what needs to be done. That's what design is all about, and you learn on the way when you're doing it. Second assignment during the same time, there was an exporter who wanted jute and cotton dharis. I went and somebody suggested, and I went and told him, okay, I'll do dhari. He says, okay, do 5-6 dharis for me. And he gave me cash, 10,000 rupees. एक रुपए note ka bundle. And I am not carrying, I mean, suddenly, I didn't know how to carry this cash. Actually, एक थैला वाला दे दो यार, बोले थैला वाला कुछ नहीं है. So I rolled up the entire thing in my t-shirt, somehow managed to reach my room, sweating. ये क्या हो रहा है? Anyway, and then I designed these dharis. These dharis are inspired from the text layouts in the pages. That's how the texts are arranged and photographs are arranged. I thought that was because of the stripes, and that's how I put this together. And these dharis, I don't know what kind of business it is, because once the prototypes were given, the project was over and I got on to something else. This was wool development project with NID. I worked in Himachal Pradesh with Kulu shawl weavers, and the idea was to give them slightly different kind of way of thinking. They normally put green, red, yellow together in a shawl.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I said, why don't you work with only reds, only red and orange, blue color scheme, green color scheme? And they took some time to get convinced, and the photographs are not necessarily good. I made sure I kept taking pictures, and this is 30 years old slide. So a lot of dust and all there. So anyway, वो कह रहे थे साहब जी, बोले ये सारा रंग ना मेरे रात में मेरे सपने में नाचता है, सब लाल पीला लाल पीला लाल पीला, ये क्या बता दिया मुझे, बहुत रात में सपना आता है. So I said, yes, you're on the right track. You must dream like that.
Visions of creativity, of new things, of innovation. Yeah.
And then there was the next project with MPSTC, where natural dyed Chanderi fabric had to be used. So I decided, okay, I must do block printing in Sanganer. So this was probably the first time we took Chanderi sarees, went to Sanganer, found out a block printer, and NCIHPT, National Craft Institute for Handcrafted Textile. That institute had that project. So they assigned me. So we dig out oldest blocks. And what I did here, the small intervention which was there, Sanganeri always used black outline.
Yes.
What I did for Chanderi, I did brown outline. So that was one contribution, by which what happened, the entire tone became slightly softer.
Right.
Uska jo kararapan khatam ho gaya, and it suited more that ethereal Chanderi fabric.
Yeah.
Another thing was keep slightly breathing spaces in the juxtapositioning. It is important to show fabric as much. Normally what happens in block printing, they cover as much ताकि कहीं दाग वूग लग जाएगा तो पता नहीं चलेगा.
Right.
इसलिए यहाँ पे कोशिश किया कि हमने हम थोड़ा कपड़ा दिखाए. चंदेरी का कपड़ा बहुत खूबसूरत होता है, उसको दिखाना जरूर था. तो use little open. So artisan understood यार ये कुछ नया बात है इसमें. Especially after doing brown. So brown, once the range was ready, we brought it to Cottage Emporium with this exhibition. Friend of mine was there from NID, and he took these pictures. Because उस वक्त कैमरा हमारा था नहीं, जिसने ले लिया तो पता नहीं किसने लिया. So that's how, thankfully, the documentation is there.
You know what I find for the audience also who doesn't know, Sanganer is obviously the hub of block printing. So it's interesting that you were able to work with the artisans to do something different. That design intervention, which although very minimal, changes the feel and the look, and something that is traditional, yet that little value add has come, which has given it a different feel and a look. And that's kind of interesting in this project that I see.
So every time you need not do radical changes. Whenever there is opportunity, so that sensitive has to slowly develop. Absolutely. Otherwise, once you come from an institute, you want to change the world, you want to paint the town red that quickly. It does take a lot of time. There may be some bright guys now coming, they'll paint town red.
Chandrashekhar, your voice has gone off. Breaking up. Your voice is breaking up a little bit. I think there's a little bit of a network issue.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, super. We just lost the last bit of what you said because there was a bit of a network issue.
Okay. When I was in Chanderi, I was moving around. Chanderi is a beautiful town. So many Mughal monuments there. ये मोइनुद्दीन चिश्ती के खानदान की कब्रें हैं. And you go and stand in that monument, nobody around. Normally what happens when you go to Taj, so much of crowd is there. When you go to Lal Killa, so many people are there. Here you have all for yourself. क्योंकि मज़ार है, कोई जाता नहीं है वहाँ पर. And I was so astonished by looking at this craftsmanship. So I got these 3 mihrabs, each one different slightly than the other. Somewhere there is open space, somewhere there is more ornamentation, somewhere. So the Mughals had a fabulous templates of aesthetics, and that's how they practice. And they across India or wherever you go, you see how they played with busy and the open areas, and how broke the monotony, density. Amazing. So there are a lot to learn from. Similarly, you look at the Jain architecture, you look at Sun Temple, or you look at Gopuram, or you look at Somnath Temple. There are lots of each
very
of these.
Distinct, unique
there are schools of thoughts.
Yeah, there's food for thought that
you have a lot to learn from them. हमारे बाप दादों ने इतना काम करके रखा हुआ है, तो हम सिर्फ अगर हम जैन आर्किटेक्चर ले ले या सिर्फ अगर कोणार्क ले लेता, पूरी जिंदगी उसमें काम कर सकते हैं.
Absolutely. It's a lifetime of learning.
Then I got invited by Ogan. Ogan is a fashion store here in, this is 1993, I think. Yeah. And they said, why don't you do some sarees in Banaras and some sarees block printed in Delhi? So I went to Banaras, understood their business, understood their technique, and I did Katan ka saree, which are very jacquard woven. And so when I did the pattern which was there in the body, same pattern was enlarged many times and put into pallu.
Nice.
That's a simple idea. Then I got introduced to Ashok Rai, who's an Indian, and he has the Indian cornucopia export company. And then I started doing consultancy for him. And the first assignment he gave was doing black and whites. Black and white abhi bhi dekh karke dil dhadakta hai. And this printing technique is called aniline black. वो पपड़ी की छपाई, वो थोड़ा कार्सिनोजेनिक होता है आर्टिजन्स के लिए. ग्लव्स वगैरह पहन के अगर सेफ्टी करके करते तो होता है. But that was very, very popular. Fab India was doing great guns with black and whites. And here I did textures, fingerprints, some hand-drawn geometry, wood textures. You cut wood का जो आरी से texture निकलता उसका print लेकर के, and done this entire range.
So that's very interesting. The bigger image in the background is handprints, fingerprints. Is that the fingerprint image right on the biggest image?
Yes, yes. Let's say block size is, let's say 8 inches by 8 inches. So that one repeat set into. So when you see the surface, you don't see the joint, because these are very organic. The entire lines are very systematically on your fingers, and each one different.
Yeah.
I know. So I had little tough time to get that fluid pattern. I have not put flat pictures here, but you don't see the break. They're just merging into each other. So that was a challenge to design, but it was really enjoyable and very successful product there. Then same organization, they had a requirement of doing chain stitch rugs. So Miro and Kandinsky inspired rug. That was the trend. So he asked me, why don't you do this? So what I did, I understood Miro and Kandinsky by looking at both of their work in books, studied how they must have thought while making it. And let's say I looked at 8 paintings and created the 9th one by amalgamating patterns which are there. So it looked like theirs, but it's new. And we named this collection in the spirit of Kandinsky and in the spirit of Miro. Since it was part of trends, there is not much of a copyright issue, but we also give a credit to the artist. Right. And I'm telling you, for 5 years, this collection did extremely well. For Kashmiri, this was probably first time somebody is doing so drastically different, because they normally do kilim pattern, they do florals, and this is the time. And interestingly, because the luster on this chain stitch rug is so beautiful, it almost like a paint, like so, but the grid and division of pattern created that lustrous feel onto the surface. Then in 1996, RR Decor is a company. Now they are big guys. That time he was a small guy who came to me with a plastic thela in with some samples. And he said, मैं भागलपुर सिल्क से मुझे कुछ बिजनेस करना है, बताओ क्या करना है. At that time I was consultant to IGEP, Indo-German Export Promotion Project. So he met me there. So I told him, why don't you come to my studio? I'll guide you. So I met him and I told him, देखो तुम्हारे पास जो सैंपल है वो सभी के पास है, तो तुमको कुछ ऑर्डर मिल जाएगा तो देखो, लेकिन तुमको बहुत ही बड़ा बदलाव करना पड़ेगा. तो इसे क्या? मतलब तुम जो वॉर्प स्ट्राइप, तब तक भागलपुर सिल्क में सिर्फ वॉर्प स्ट्राइप बनती थी. दैट मींस हॉरिजॉन्टल स्ट्राइप्स. इवन कुर्ताज हैड हॉरिजॉन्टल स्ट्राइप्स इन द एम्पोरियम्स. अच्छा, हमको वॉर्प स्ट्राइप में जाना पड़ेगा, वेब स्ट्राइप को नहीं करना है. इसलिए ऐसा थोड़ी ना हो सकता है, ये तो भागलपुर की पहचान है. अच्छा देखो, आई एम टेलिंग यू अ जैकपॉट. अगर मेरी बात आज नहीं सुनोगे तो बाद में पछताओगे, but this is what you need to do. He didn't have money to pay me. He said, earn some money, let's see this cracks. If I earn money, then I hire you more. And then he went on doing the warp stripes. And within 3-4 years, he reached 10 crore from Bhagat.
Wow.
Silk, domestic market. All vertical side, they got qualified for home furnishing. The first order was given by Jagdish Stores to him, and then there's no looking back.
Yeah.
Now Bhagalpur silk has gone down because polyester has come in.
Yeah.
Polyester is constantly imitating handcrafted, and that is why lost out, because they also become expensive.
Yeah.
And you can see the process here. These pahalwans are beating the fabric to give it a luster. इसको कहते हैं कुंडी करना.
Interesting. I was wondering what that image was.
कुंडी करना.
Kundi karna. Wow.
So this is a very, very indigenous process. There is no other way. हर भागलपुर सिल्क का कपड़ा इसी तरह पीट के आता है.
But what is it that's so unique about? You can't replicate it any other way. They use this indigenous.
Because what happens, the tussar silk is slightly stiffer.
Okay.
उसको पीट के उसमें लचीलापन आता है और लस्टरस बन जाता है, शीन भी आता है. They use some soap solution to it and then they keep doing. But it's an amazing, and it's best that it is kept like that. So what happened? That's why hand spun, hand woven, handcrafted, and human. That's the unique USP of this. Then I got introduced to Oxfam Fair Trade Company. I was consultant to them almost for 3-4 years, and they sent me all over India. What a pleasure. I really got to see India through them. I went to this Koilgudam Handloom Cooperative Handloom Weavers Society, now in Telangana, then in Andhra Pradesh. I spent 13 days there, not knowing their languages. Most of them spoke only Telugu, Tuta Hindi, and I worked with them, stayed in their balcony. एक थान के ऊपर सो करके दूसरा थान ओढ़ लिया. And I did this ikat bed covers for them. Red one for the Christmas, blue one for the summer, and for next 5 years, these products did very, very well. You must notice something very, very interesting in this. The bed cover and the cushion cover is exactly the same fabric.
Yeah.
That is the time you have this Wagle Ki Duniya also. एक सीरियल आता था जिसके अंदर वो जो एक्टर था उसके घर का कपड़ा, उसका खुद का शर्ट, उसके बच्चों के शर्ट ही एक ही कपड़े के होते थे.
The curtains, the furniture, and the clothes was all one fabric.
And in 1998, when Oxfam invited me to UK, all the catalogs had same table mat, same cushion cover, same gloves. So it was same fabric. So beyond the price, this is how these guys are boring. Because we hated it. At home also we hated it. दो भाई को अगर एक जैसा कपड़ा आ गया तो we never liked it. Anyway, but that's what the trend is all about. You can't, somebody sits and decides, or a team of people decide. That's a business strategy.
Yeah.
So anyway, now same weavers colony. I did this these motifs with leaves, but they're constantly changing. But normally in Indian tradition, you have motifs which are straight.
Yes.
They're mostly one-directed. If you look at Sanganer print, they are going in one direction. There are changes, leaf direction, especially for the bed cover. So it looks like gone with the wind.
Just scattered.
And the character of ikat also merges very well.
Yeah.
And then the double ikat table cover also made. These also did some of the business. This is again with Oxfam Trade Company Sarthak Manav Kushtashram in Jaipur, where the lepers say they weave fabric on power loom. And then what I did some indigo dyed yarn, woven checks, and then did dabu on it. So it was a two-way process. So the number of colors you could achieve with weaving were, let's say, 4, including white. With the block printing, you could do 8. So that's how the multicolored blue.
Wonderful, and it adds a depth. It adds a depth in the shape.
So it was interesting. Uske pehle wo ek hi plain hi kapda karte the. So that's why every time you look at the craft, understand its potential, and then see what is the change you want to do. That doesn't mean that it is going to pura badalna hi jayega, but you just give one more shot in the arm of craft, and that is the intention. You need to do something which lasts with them longer than only a product or only a range. When you go away, they should continue to do that additional thing. So that's where the crafts keep constantly evolving. We don't need to hold on to exactly वैसे के वैसे नहीं. जो वैसे के वैसे म्यूजियम में रखा हुआ है, लेकिन हमें लोगों को पसंद आने वाली चीज बनना जरूरी है. लोगों की जरूरतें हरदम बदलती रहती है.
I know.
जो ब्लू शर्ट अगली बार मेरे को कोई गिफ्ट करेगा तो मैं नहीं खरीदूंगा.
Yeah.
गिफ्ट नहीं करना नहीं दूंगा, मैं मेरे भाई को दे दूंगा, मेरे दोस्त को दे दूंगा, but I won't wear the same.
Yeah, because
that is what human wants, novelty, and that is the crux of the matter.
Yeah.
We have to surprise all the time with your ideas.
You know what I want to just step in and say, I think this is something very interesting.
Yeah.
The pattern that I see is just about how the design change can be very minimal, very small, but it is always new and something that can sustain itself. And I think that's the kind of thread that you're also showing us, that do something that sustains, you go away, there is something new that remains, and then something more can come out of it. And the craft also evolves that way, and the artisan also evolves in the same way. And I think that's kind of interesting to see in a lot of the work that we've seen till now. I think that's pretty interesting.
Another thing is, another thing what happens that when आप बीज छोड़ रहे हैं वहां पर,
right,
आपने अगर एक बीज छोड़ा तो पौधा बाद में निकलता, तुरंत नहीं आता है वो, ज्यादा करके इम्पैक्ट आपके जाने के बाद उनको आपकी बातें याद आती है, अरे कितना पैशनेटली इसको करना है. Lot of resistance happen, but that's how things work. You gotta keep chasing. FICCI के Gujarat Rehabilitation Project, I was sent to Kutch. After NIFT did intervention for 6 months, then I was given 5 villages: embroidery, weaving, tie and dye, block printing, and bandage. Yeah. And I kept traveling. I spent almost 80 days over the period of 2 years in Gujarat, kept going for 5 days, 6 days, 10 days, 11 days, and kept working with these people who were affected with the earthquake, and resurgence of them was, directed. And slowly all of them, interestingly, in this intervention, what I did not do very drastic changes. What I understood, what is the need which must be realized, but it doesn't threaten them. Because they say, અમારું tradition છે, તમે કેવી રીતે બદલો છો? બદલો નથી. છે ના, મેં બદલું નથી, તમારા ટ્રેડિશનમાં મેં વધારે એક જોઈન કરું છું, આઈડિયા જોઈન કરું છું. Then you need to comfort them. And what I did, I taught them reduction of less consumption of yarn in a shawl. So shawl became lighter. When shawl became lighter, you saved on money. Shawl became softer, so it became flowy. So it became more acceptable for a larger masses.
Right.
And I introduced softeners, so you do nice soaping, so it became fluffy. So basically, the physical characteristics of the shawls were enhanced there. Because before then, they didn't even remove starch. वो starch वाला ही shawl बेच देते थे, और जो लेने वाला है वो घबरा करके उसको वैसे ही प्रेस करके वैसे ही चला देता. तो I often seen the shawl looked very stiff. So by introducing softness, the things change. And then small changes in tie and dye, new techniques. First, show them example. Once they see the results, because you are there to guide them, once they see the result, then they get excited. Oh, तो एमा तो कोई effort नहीं. चलो ठीक है. And that's how. So you need to win their confidence, show them examples, and it works. The large range. I'm not going to. Now this was 2004 Dostkari India Pakistan Design Workshop. Laila Thiabji's Jaya Jetli's Dastakari Hath Samiti had got this project, and they invited me and Bala Subramaniam to work as designers on this. And I did textiles, Bala did 3D products. And you see, Pakistan or India के similar crafts came together, because earlier it was one. तो ये दोस्तकारी जो था, दोस्ती निभाने के लिए ये project किया गया था. And and I had done this calligraphic logo also for them, where it's Islamic calligraphy, लेकिन दोस्तकारी लिखा हुआ है और Hindi word है, or something like that. So that's where my calligraphic skill from JJ School of Art were utilized. Although I did it on computer, but I think once you learn it, the tool doesn't matter. Your tools keep changing all the time.
The fundamentals remain the same, just the tools.
So these Ajrak partitions, they were on the both side, double, udhar bhi aur idhar bhi. Udhar Pakistan, idhar India. और ये दोस्ती के बीच में पर्दा है. So that's how dostkari was visualized. And we did so every product border was done by Pakistan artisan, the center part was done by Indian, wood carving mein somebody done leather work. So we done making from across, and they worked together. This was one of the largest textile pieces.
Where was this exhibited, Chandrashekhar?
This was at the Delhi Haat.
Oh, this was at Delhi Haat, because that's
this
where
was
the
Delhi
Haat is. Exactly. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
this was Elephant Design was doing rebranding for Suzlon Excellence Academy. They had their green campus in Pune, and in that, when I went, and I generally kept meeting people, without just go meet Aditi for a coffee, without intention, without. When Ashish asked me, "What are you doing?" I said, "At the moment, nothing much, but I am wanting to do some crazy art textile. Here is a project for you." And then he gave me a document. So read and respond. I said, "Oh, kya baat hai? This is amazing." I went back and looked at it, and I immediately made a proposal and put it on.
Wow.
When those guys said, Suzlon guys said, "Why don't you give us a sketch?" तब तक थोड़े सिंग भी आ चुके थे, हमने बोले हम जब तक प्रोजेक्ट स्पॉन्सर जब तक प्रोजेक्ट एक्सेप्ट नहीं होगा मैं स्केच नहीं बनाऊंगा. Then those guys said, "Look, yeah, project is given to you, but we need something. चाहे तुम बंदर की शक्ल बना के दे दो, लेकिन we need a document which says that you are in." So I worked overnight and created a sketch quite similar or a little different than this, a basic concept. And by evening, I had a mail that you are on.
Wow. And Chandrashekhar, this is, I see now we've kind of now gone into the sphere of your large scale projects that you started doing for spaces. Up till now, you've shown us a lot of projects that were in collaboration with artists. And now we see like your interior and spaces that you've created projects coming through textiles.
Interestingly, what I done is my entire presentation is a chronological order. So there may be some craft project later, but but this was the biggest chance.
Right. Okay.
So this was the nomenclature. You see this Saraswati, this is a yantra kind of a thing. That was the nomenclature of Suzlon's Excellence Academy. Brief was to utilize this in the mural. That was one. And this is somehow if you can display, demonstrate a learning process, because ours is a training institute.
Yeah.
First, I was suggested, why don't you do something like MC Aisha or something like that? But again, sing thode aa chuke the. So why should I do MC Aisha? Apna kyun nahi karun kuch? So I made a sketch, and then they had their curators meeting, and they said, "Okay, let him do what he wants to do." And the art curators say, "Look, the way you're explaining, we have no contribution in this. So you only keep sending us presentation, keep sending progress report. We are not coming to Delhi. You manage it." 35 artisans.
Wow.
For almost over 5 months, different crafts, 6 kind of crafts, all silk, dyeing, printing, weaving, embroidery, Kashmir embroidery, hand embroidery, machine applique, machine embroidery, tie and dye, all together. Never done something like that. Never knew anybody who could guide me. So we were quite scared. Ye kya aa gaya? Ye kaise karenge? But anyway, so my wife is also apparel designers. We sat together and we decided 25 things could go wrong with this. And we decided what are the solutions for it. And then we went for making it. Nothing went wrong.
Wow.
That's exactly the way we wanted. Single piece. I mean, finally, it was a single piece. We carried on a roll, put it in a truck. And then at one stretch, you put it up.
But
so
where was this made? I'm just curious. How did you bring all these artisans together and make it in one place?
No, these artisans kept coming at various times whenever their turn came. But that's what the planning was all about. What should be done first? What should be done later? Artisans came, they had to be trained because nobody's done such large pieces. So they sat on the pieces and did embroidery. So a lot of training happened, a lot of comforting happened. You need to make sure that they're comforted. They come all the way 40-50 kilometers, give them food. So we hired a large place. It was really like a big party in the Mela kind of thing happening. And we hired a large hall in the market. And that's how Kashmiri guys came and stayed with us for 11 days. भरी गर्मी में अगस्त महीने में आकर के पसीने पसीने छूट रहे थे, फिर भी उन्होंने काम किया. And they said, कभी भी चाहिए सर जी बुलाइएगा, हमें बहुत मजा आया.
Blood, sweat and tears.
These are Panch Mahabhutas. That is Prithvi, Vayu, Aap, Tej, Akash. The biggest mural is wind energy, which is business of Suzlon. And you see other energies also created into this applique, embroidered, mixed media, textile. Great fun. And that's where my that was stamping feet into a completely novel area. So you started with a bang. So because suddenly something which is quite magnum in its size was created.
I see this is a very pivotal, I guess this was a very pivotal point for you when the first project, the first real life project figuring out everything on your own. Everything had to be done, thought of beforehand, all the challenges that could come up. You went through the entire design process, organization, management, the visualization. I think this must have been that project that put everything together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All that what you've done at NID, all that you may have said faculty kitna pareshan kar rahe, all that was absolutely being utilized here.
Yeah.
So that was, I think that's it. You may, when you're a student, you often complain like kitna kaam karate faculty. But all that is very, very important. That those, again, that seed sowing happened when you're at institute, and you got to take as much advantage as much possible. Be greedy. Be greedy. तुम्हारा मतलब है और किसी का नहीं है. Keep that in mind. This is the, at institute you better be selfish, because तुम्हें जितना ले उठा सकते हो उठाओ. That is what it is.
Chandrashekhar, sorry to interrupt. We will have to speed up a little bit here. I can see a lot of questions are popping up now.
Okay. Here is Chanderi monument. Then I came back and I looked at Taj Mahal. Sorry, I looked at Qutub Minar.
Yeah.
And look at the jali, which is that engraving in the Qutub Minar converted into block prints on this sari.
Beautiful.
These saris are printed in Delhi. Some were with gold, some were without gold. This was a range for my shop in Surajkund. It was Surajkund Design Galleries, and there are 15 shops. We did very badly because Surajkund never promoted it. They were only interested in taking rents. For a few years we suffered, and finally we had to shut down the shop. We couldn't even cover our expenditure. It was that bad. But anyway, a lot of learning from that. Then I started working with my brother was interior designer by then. Almost 15 years passed together. We never thought of working together. At one side, yeah, why don't you work together? I keep doing interiors, but I don't do textiles. So let's join hands. And that's how the collaboration began. And then he started getting me into ideation, and slowly we started doing interior. This is one interior where initially we thought they will design a carpet for the floor, but when I said, why don't you do it for the ceiling instead? So I created this tapestry for the ceiling, and then we put a plain dari underneath, and there's another bedroom which is velvet bed covers and a mural in the wall. And these are the clients are basically modern ghar chahiye. So there's a lot of liberty in that, but we always made sure that children, what kind of likenesses they have. So sometimes children say, oh, I love pink, I like butterflies, or I like bikes. So you keep that. You need to understand the person who's going to spend time in the interior and see, because he's not designer. Designer is going to walk away later.
Yeah.
You see what they are going to be comfortable with. That needs to be read well when you interact with your client.
Yeah, and that's kind of important, right? User needs, when you go away, the person has to be comfortable, happy with what you created, because they're living in it. And I think as a designer, you have to look at your own creativity plus what the client wants, what the customer wants, what they will be happy with over a long period of time as well, because they're going to live there, they're going to interact with that mural or the space. So I think that fine balance, I think every designer always has to maintain, even whichever client they're working with.
This is another interior, 7,500 square feet of area, lots of things in it. So what we did, whatever we put on textile, we also took it on metal jalis and wood and stone carving and upholsteries and on the table. And so what happened, by doing that, the interior spaces talk to each other. So what you see in the drawing room, bit of that is somewhere in the bedroom. What is there in the bedroom? Somewhere you see it in the balcony. So whatever the interiors get connected mentally, the motifs follow you, and that's an interesting discovery. And this we didn't learn anywhere. This is all by doing it. We say, why don't you create this nexus which are indirect, but they work on the mind. And you work with the transparency, translucencies, textures, perforations, reflections. These are the kind of things guide you through. So it is not necessary every time you say, I need to get inspired from Mughal jalis. Inspiration can be anything. It could be features. I want to do only fluffy textures. That is inspiration itself. And then thereafter you start working. That kind of a thing. Then you have these laser cut silk tie and dye sandwich between a glass railing and a ribbon embroidery on the ceiling. That's light, ambience light. And this is the bedroom, guest bedroom and a master bedroom. A Mangalgiri soft cotton quilt. This was Axis Bank. Their front office needed ties and scarves. So Elephant Design asked me to do this scarves and ties. They loved the ties and scarves. But
this is so interesting.
But
This is interesting.
their requirement was 30,000 ties a year. Now that is a big, big amount. If I could have got that, that could have been a big business. But this is no, we are not. We would like to take call later. They loved their CEO and everybody loved these ties and they flaunted it around. They were going gaga. Silk ties. I said I could do this polyester also. But then they said, no, no, abhi kharcha nahi karna hai. Good that you've done it. We're going to keep that in an Axis Bank museum. So this is a logo treated into a texture form. When you wear only single logo on a tie, that's slightly embarrassing.
Yeah.
But when you make that into feature, which is fashion feature, then it becomes enjoyable. In the
I know,
evening,
it's an interesting way. Yeah, it's a very creative way of converting a logo into a pattern.
It becomes a wearable kind of a brand. Now, silk, finest of the silk you work, then you go to the courses of fabric, there is coir. Chupta hai. Very coarse, very difficult to mend. That's the coir project in Kerala. They do these pinks and brown mats. I went and introduced textures and blend of yarn and very festive kind of a range. But they loved the collection, but they didn't have courage to put that into practice. No, we are happy with our green and red. We'll keep this in a museum and that's it. I got my money, but then that's how. So sometimes it is not necessarily whatever you do, it is not necessarily see the light of the day.
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes into the Baksa.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is another project, Kane India Limited. 5 floors in Gurgaon, and they are into earth extraction of oil. Their various floors are given various themes. This was their cafeteria, which was submarine was a theme, and I created this applique embroidery mural assembled together in Bardmer, and we created this textile, all the pieces first. Textiles in Delhi. Then we took them there with dyeing and all that. And then we went there with the applique women, trained them for 10 days, and then left them for next 10 days. And they put this together. We brought it to Delhi, did some more error correction, and then we put that into the 5 murals together, joined with the glass graphics, almost 52 feet long.
Wow, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. And I can see a lot of women are working on the panels also. I can see a lot of women in that photo are working on the panels.
This was their training hall. There are 2 murals, fossils on the one side or the other. One was horizontal slice of earth, other was a vertical slice of earth, and you see these fossils stuck in between. Printing technique which crumple the textiles and erase them. So use all your knowledge which you learned and played it around. Create really fossil-like effect with this, with multiple techniques, handloom textiles. This was their CEO floor. Aqua crystal was the theme. Again, tie and dye and appliques and all that together. So this was there. Then came Devi Art Foundation. They announced that if you have some crazy ideas in textile, we'll be able to support it. So I applied. I had given one installation of 120 feet long. They loved it, but the budget, it was taking a budget of 4 people because they had 20 people to support. They said, "तुम 4 लोगों का ही पैसा खा जाओगे तो कैसे काम चलेगा?" So why don't you do something else? Do smaller or do something which is not so expensive. So then I put an idea. I decided to change the principle of warp and weft, which are crossing each other at 90 degrees. I said, let me change it. And I made a circular weave and made a loom, and big 35 feet loom, and on that we wove this dari. Now this is not a normal cloth. This is not a normal cloth. And once it was woven, I decided to suspend it in the air. In fact, I have lots of images, the process and all that, but we don't have time. So anyway, later, aage kabhi mauka aayega to bataunga. So this was not normal cloth. It was not draping straight. It was curling. And so I had to create a structure which will take that curl, and then I suspended it in the air with the thin wires, and it became a flying rug.
Fascinating. This is amazing.
And the distortion which you see are inherent in the fabric.
In the fabric.
They're not, they only come like that. That is the magic of it. And you have Pitambar, Shvetambar, Raktambar, yeah, and you have Vakratunda. So this is Vakrambar. So this is a Vakrambar cloth. There are many more will be coming. I've not been able to do next ones because it requires heavy investment. Looms have to be redesigned. Every time you do it, new loom have to be designed.
Amazing.
So, but it's in the waiting. It shall happen very soon.
Wow.
So that's how this was displayed at Jawahar Kala Kendra in Jaipur during exhibition of 50 years of textiles in traditions and I'm forgetting the name of the exhibition. So that's how. Then Praveen Masale Wale, there for their boardroom, they're into food. So I had to depict food culture, Rasa Rang tapestry. Rang jo hai jo dikhai deta, you cultivate food on earth, and rasas are all not seen, they can be really experienced. So they're the roots. And you see this entire story built of juices and the imagery, and you see the green part, you see the flowers and food patterns, and you see beans ka impression, dhania ka impression, and murga and all kinds of things, the bakra and all that, meat and everything together, what we all grow, and those have become flowers of trees, and then the roots are all dark, deep, juicy. So this is a tapestry, 32 feet long, 4 feet wide, and you have these cow bars on top. Foodies, they're appreciating they're enjoying. So these are the cow bars which are created from the same cloth with the metal wire inside.
I love that. I love that little addition to
That's how it is in the boardroom.
Yeah, amazing.
So then you have furniture and all that. But anyway, that's how the textile have to live with every other element into the interior,
Yeah.
and then they become part of it because you got to be spending time with them. So that's how. Then commitment to Kashmir, 2017, 18, 19 project. We did entrepreneurship development for craftspeople in Kashmir, and Dastakar had got this project from Titan, and 5 designers, 2 mentors. I was one of the mentors, Jatin Bhatt was another mentor, and we worked in Kashmir for almost 2 years. We spent almost 45, 50 days at various times, avoiding bullets, going into jams, saving yourself, but we didn't say no. We kept going there, constantly fighting the odds, and developed large range of products. And these entrepreneurs today are slowly becoming successful entrepreneurs, and they are doing marketing on their own and constantly promoting their product. Variety of inputs were given them: costing, pricing, sourcing, design, quality, entrepreneurship, salesmanship. All those trainings were given to them, and this range was this is a chain stitch embroidery rugs. The floral one which you see, these are inspired from the wood carving, walnut wood carving.
Yeah.
So you've taken the same motifs, only un rango ko, un walnut ko humne rang diya hai. That is the idea. And you see this, जो उनका जो क्या कहते हैं उसको, ट्वीड होता है, कश्मीरी ट्वीड, उन ट्वीड्स के वीव से इंस्पायर किया हुआ ये रेंज है. The texture of the weave, the twills and the stripes, and that's the range is inspired from the. So that's how. And this is clamp ikat from Kashmir on Pashmina.
Oh,
one of the jalis from the monuments there, which was used.
Yes. This
is my ongoing project. I am doing tapestries on Jainism. This is a long drawn project, almost 3.5 years I've been working, and very complex subject, lots of research, lots of adventurism, and since it is a religious project, lots of ideation and talking to religious seers and taking them into confidence, and they draw the boundaries and they say, okay, you can play around, they keep drawing and constantly. So it's being built slowly. Another 6 months, 7, 8 months time, my range of tapestries, about 15, 20 of them will be ready, and then we soon will be holding an exhibition. There's only a glimpse of it. You see, one is beadwork and the sequin, and other side you see a piece of textile which is inspired from the jalis of the Jain temple. And these are woven. It took 5.5 months to make this piece of cloth, and then embroidery on it. On the gutters which are there to make grid. So that's how. So that's my probably the last slide. You've seen my portraiture in the beginning. Present status after pandemic. This is my portraiture. This is the state of mind. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Chandrashekhar. That was That was very, very fascinating and such a good look into just through your projects, just understanding your journey and your process and your learnings and how you've approached every project and what that has sort of given you and how I think the idea that what struck me most was that throughout all your projects, you've kept a consistent pattern of experimentation, thinking outside the box a little bit, not radical transformation. What you are looking for is how design intervention, even the smallest way, can make a lasting difference. So that when you are even out of the picture, that still endures. And I think that's very memorable about what I saw in all of your projects happening. And I like the idea of how Commitment to Kashmir was a special project in the sense that that's where the design intervention has helped other people who are already craftsmen become entrepreneurs, have that skill set, your skill set transferred to them so that they can sort of develop their own stories and their own journeys, and a lot of them have. Um, I think that was pretty interesting how you ended with that project. Now, we had a lot of questions that I wanted to ask Chandrashekhar, but we've kind of run out of time. So I'm going to go directly to the Q&A part and open it up for the Q&A. And let's start, Chandrashekhar. I think there's a few questions for you. I think we can start with Arunima asks, what are the qualities a designer should have, let's say, according to you? And we'll go through them quickly so that we have time at least to answer everything.
Your qualities as a designer will be cultivated when you join the design school. You got to be curious.
Absolutely. I agree.
You got to be funny. You got to be enjoying. You got to be extremely inquisitive, and you need to reason out things why certain things work certain way. You constantly have to be curious. You got to be finding. You should have all these ideas: why, where, how, when, whom, for whom, what,
Yeah.
when. These are your tools. Those will have to be all the time with you, and you will keep on accumulating information. More you travel, more you learn. More you meet people, more you learn. You have to constantly talking to people, spaces, objects, nature,
Yeah.
changing society, politicians, everybody.
Yeah.
You have to be with people because design is for people. You constantly have to engage with your surroundings, be it people, places, objects, or nature. I think these are these are the things.
Yeah.
And वो पहले से नहीं आएगा. Once you join design, you will automatically, these things will get honed.
Yeah.
There are expert teachers who are guiding you, and they'll take you through, and you will find your own music very soon.
Great. Okay, I'm going to go to the next question. I think Gopika is asking, some of these are fairly specific and topical, so we can go through them quickly. What are the main differences between manual illustrations and digital, and which should be more effective? Gopika asks.
I've been lucky to, I mean, my time, people have been lucky to do complete pencil drawing on a tracing paper. You invert it, then नाखून से रगड़ के उसका दूसरा impression लीजिए, फिर तीसरे में खत्म हो जाएगा, दोबारा रगड़ करके करिए, and that's how you do your repetition.
Yeah.
Then came photocopy, Xerox, where fourth or fifth print was lighter, and that's how you slowly, the technology, that's how it got introduced. Xerox machine in 1990 to 93 was a big god for us. Color Xerox, suddenly everybody is excited. Oh, color print, what fun. Brown bhi ho sakta hai, blue bhi ho sakta hai. Then came in 1994, 95, enlargement and reduction. Wow. Suddenly you can do 97% enlarge, 27% enlarge, 31% enlarge. So slowly you're armed with more technology. So speed of the work kept happening more and more. But all that as a basis of your hand drawing skills, those are not forgotten. You do manipulations with the technology, but initial visualization has to be with the with the pencil or with a pen or with a brush. If you don't have pencil, brush, paper, you can do drawing on the sand. I remember in my basketball court at NID, I used to put water inside a polyethylene bag, punch a hole, and with wo jo dhar nikalti usse basketball court ke drawing karke used to go on a top floor and see what I've done to understand scale. Things like that. So that means your skills, visualization will have to, the basic skills will have to be developed, and you also use technology. I tell you something now. For last 30 years, I've seen all kinds of technology. Today, we have computer. My most of the visualization happens on computer because sometimes scales are very big, but my delivery is with hand. My visualization happen, large scale drawings, all that. But when it has to be made, all artisans come together, people are embroidering, somebody doing tie and dye, somebody doing weaving. So that's the combination. I think it works very, very well. So finally, what you deliver, you're still going back to your people. But visualization, computer helps. Computer helps you to reduce drudgery. So you have to use technology intelligently. That is what is the basic, I think. But yeah.
Yeah. Great. And Megha asked, or Varsha asked, how would you describe your style? Do you have a style?
Oh, do I have a style? My style keeps changing because it's important. Now, this is interesting. Very good question. See what happens. There are a variety of design practices. You see, when you're doing for exports, there is a brief is the king. You trends are the king. Your product will have to match the trend then, because somebody in the trade fair is expecting you to do what he's expecting. The trends are the king. When you do with the artisans, artisan is the king. I have to do something which will benefit him. So मेरा style नहीं आ रहा, मुझे देखना need क्या है. What is needed? So you serve. When I do product, when I do my product, or like for example, Akila is doing her product, she's got a style because she is doing business with that. So she is the king in that, or she is the queen in that. Or when I do my art textile, it's completely on my own, then I'm very important. But when I'm doing it for a client, if it is a Suzlon or if it is a Mahindra, I have to see what is their requirement, what is their story. मुझे उनका story creative तरीके से बताना है. So your style will keep on changing. Finally, brief is the king. करना क्या है, relevance क्या है, तुम कुछ भी बना लो, लेकिन relevance will be decided by the brief. करना है, जरूरत क्या है, problem क्या है. That's what is very, very important. So स्टाइल अगर जो काम मैं पर्सनल तरीके से करता हूं, आई डोंट नो, स्टाइल मुझे लगता है डिजाइनर को स्टाइल नहीं होना चाहिए,
नहीं होना चाहिए.
वैरायटी ऑफ काम कर रहे हैं. आई एम टेलिंग यू वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, आई मस्ट टेल यू. आई वाज स्पीकिंग टू मैथमेटिशियन, ही सेड कि क्या बोले आप, डिजाइन क्या इतना इतराते क्यों हो? तो मैंने बोला देखो एक चीज देखो, तुम्हारे मेरे प्रोफेशन में एक ही फर्क है. तुम्हारा एक प्रॉब्लम 50 साल पहले किसी ने अगर जिसका जवाब दिया, आज भी तुम्हारा जवाब वही होना चाहिए, चाहे तुम कैलकुलेटर इस्तेमाल करो या फॉर्मूला इस्तेमाल करो. Your answer will be the same. But if I repeat my answer, I'll be out of the job. And that is the fundamental difference between keeping yourself young and ticking on your toes.
Yes, especially if you want to have a very long career, you have to have that adaptability, that change, adapt to what the need is, adapt to what is needed, what is required, and develop your style based on that, on what you're working with, what the need is. I'm going to go to the next question by this is a quick one. Megha asks, what current fashion trend would you like to see disappear?
Disappear? That's a good question. That's a nice, funny question. I don't like those those trousers which almost show you everything, फटी हुई jeans का मुझे नहीं मजा आता है. It's too much. I mean, your knees are open, तुम्हारे thighs से नीचे सब कुछ खुला है, only strings are attached. Hey, come on, take a break. You could, I mean, if you want to show them, then just wear a bikini. Yeah. Right? That's absolutely useless. Absolutely useless. Absolutely useful.
Um,
Do you agree, Aditya?
yeah, absolutely. What's the point otherwise? Might as well do that.
Good, yeah.
I'm just going to go to a slightly more serious question that Divya is asking from this funny one. She asked, from the use of chemical colors and screen prints in the modern period, 1 lakh people work under the Sanganeri and Bagu printing department, and now the printers are diminishing. Are we losing our block printing artisans in India? Hi, Chandrasekhar, are you
Yes
there?
and no.
Yeah.
Yes and no. Because see what happens, there are the change is very change is the only thing which is constant. You know, change in the thought process, human needs, modern technologies are coming. And if you look at the how, if you look at the first textiles, you know, we must have learned it from birds how to make their nests, and you use grass mats and you wrap them around, and slowly textile got developed. And when somebody wore first one, then another woman came, hey, why don't you make one for me? Then he said, okay, I can only make one a day. He started making, and then he said, no, there are many beautiful women want to wear those dresses. Then he said, okay, I can train 5. And slowly the way need started growing, more and more people liking, we started growing our manufacturing ability. More people to manufacture more, to reach more. Wheel got discovered, then you put wheel, then looms came, and there is no end. Look where we reached. Every technology outdoes the one which is grown last time. And then you go to the block printing was there, then came screen printing, then came rotary screen printing, then came digital. You had handloom, then you had knitting, then you had power loom, then you had jet loom, then you had nanotechnology, and constantly, and you suddenly have machines doing thousands of meters every day, because you want to reach as many people and want to make it profitable and cheaper. So this fight is going to go on forever. But what we need to do is we need to strike a balance. We need to strike a balance. We require plastic also. सिर्फ no plastic कहने से काम नहीं चलेगा. आज plastic के कारण हम सारे जिंदा है. Because all those masks which we worn in the pandemic, that has saved us. Large number of equipments which are there in hospitals and everywhere, this plastic is used. So what I'm saying is use it sensitively. And when you use it sensitively, that's where you also look at handcraft. You also look at Sanganer. It's within Sanganer also there are many manufacturing units which are using screen printing. Because by saying sasta karo, jaldi banao. So we are our own culprits.
Yeah. Agreed.
Profitability is the biggest danger in the entire thing. But I'm saying, but that is also business. I mean, you require some. अगर 100 मीटर का 100 रुपए मीटर का कपड़ा बिक रहा है, तो वो भी तो बिकना जरूरी, कोई तो खरीद रहा है ना उसको, उससे भी किसी का पेट का पाला. Only thing what I am saying is we should not imitate. अगर स्क्रीन प्रिंटिंग है तो स्क्रीन प्रिंटिंग अपनी पहचान बनाए, सांगानेर की अपनी पहचान है, नेचुरलाइज की अपनी पहचान है, केमिकल की. अगर लोग अपनी अपनी पहचान के अंदर काम करेंगे, उसी को बढ़ावा देंगे, तो मुझे नहीं लगता कोई भी क्राफ्ट कभी एक्सटेंड होगा. और हर एक ने ये देखना है कि व्हाट इज रिलेवेंट फॉर द करंट टाइम्स. इफ यू डू दैट, nothing will go extinct. Then the museum will keep on getting added, but crafts will have to constantly evolve. They will have to be relevant and they will not go anywhere. We'll want them and they'll be there. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, I think you did. And that actually, guys, we have a lot more questions. I'm sorry we have run out of time. So I need to ask Chandrasekhar on that note, the closing question, which is connected to what he actually said. Chandrasekhar, if you've had different roles and you've worn different hats throughout your career. Sometimes you've been a purist with design. Sometimes you've also been, let's say, a fusionist of sorts in different ways. If I were to put you in the role of a futurist, where do you think is the future for Indian traditional textiles and the evolution that we are talking about? What do you envision for the future? And if you want to leave that piece of advice for the students, for the designers listening in, where should we be looking in terms of Indian textiles?
Pandemic has given us lot of rethinking to be done. We are looking at nature once again. You've seen how animals are moving around freely, no inhibition. They're crossing the road, nobody on the road. So we need to start respecting our nature very much. That is one. So we need to go back to nature. Cities are equally important, but we need to constantly strike the button. We need to become sensitive. And once you're sensitive, हमें मोबाइल फोन मास प्रोड्यूस किया हुआ भी चाहिए और साथ में हाथ से कढ़ाई किया हुआ दुपट्टा या कैप जैकेट भी चाहिए. So let's not forget our tradition. Let's not forget what our forefathers have given us. And that is what is very, very, very important. And I think innovation is the key. Even in the handcrafts, all the young designers will have to keep on, how can I contribute? How can I create a novelty? And how can I add to the treasures which are there for many, many years? Another very, very important thing is, जो हमारे पुरखों ने दिया है वही हम आगे लेकर के जा रहे हैं या हम भी अपना कुछ डाल रहे हैं उसके अंदर, और जो भी हम अपना डाल रहे हैं, is that adding a value? That is very important. तो हमारी तरफ से एक अच्छी भली लंबी दूरी की सोच वाली अगर कंट्रीब्यूशन हम कर पाते हैं बार-बार, तो उससे ज्यादा बढ़िया कुछ नहीं होगा. एंड देयर इज अ ग्रेट फ्यूचर ऑफ क्राफ्ट, बिकॉज आप कितने, हर एक के हाथ में वही मोबाइल है, हर एक के पास वही जूता है, हर एक के पास वही कैमरा है. What I need to, we need variation. Now I think the future is each one different, and that is a strategy enough for survival of a craft. जिनको आइडेंटिकल बनाना वो तो बनाते रहेंगी, but when I say each one different, customization is the king, and I believe that is going to take us to brilliant future. All of us would keep that in mind, how you can look at customization as a main tool for you to design. And I think it's a better said, I mean less said better, karna zaruri hai. Customization and variation, keep doing surprises, don't get into the template. Template is the most dangerous thing for design. Yeah.
Great. I think I will reiterate what you said, Chandrashekhar. Innovate, each one different, and customization are three futures that we can look forward to as designers for the future of Indian textiles and for the evolution of Indian textiles. And on that note, I would like to conclude this session. This has been an absolute pleasure, Chandrashekhar. I'm thrilled that we've had such a nice time talking about your work and talking about textiles. I hope for the audience it was interesting and enlightening and fun as well. Please.
Thank you, all of you.
Yes, please. Thank you to all of you.
Again, for listening to me.
For listening to
and Aditi, it was great. I like the interaction which you conducted very well. So
thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure for me. Thank you to the audience, of course. Again, I would encourage you to see more of Chandrashekhar's work because it's prolific. There's a lot of it online that you can see and engage with his work. And of course, next week we have our session on architecture and interior design happening. So please look out for our next week's sessions. And we're going to be very excited about posting those as well. And once again,
thank you, Basant Nair, thank you, Sophia, thank you, Srishti Bajaj, thank you, everybody. I think it's been
thank you for the whole team, and we look forward to seeing you guys very soon next week.
And I'm very happy with the kind of questions participants.
Yes, and I think, yeah, good. And we apologize for not.
We have a bright future.
Yeah, we have. We do, and we apologize for not being able to answer all of them. But until next time, we'll do that again. Thanks, guys, so much, and have a good weekend. Take care. Thanks, Chandrashekhar. Have a good evening. Bye.